A new report says Nick Reiner was in a mental health conservatorship in 2020 and switched his schizophrenia medication about 1 month before he was arrested and charged with his parents' murders. The New York Times writing, the revelation of the conservatorship underscores the severity of the mental health challenges Mr. Reiner faced in recent years, issues that are likely to be central to his legal defense. Here with us is criminal defense attorney Ken Belkin. Ken, thanks for being here. This is such a sad, tragic story, but fascinating. And maybe we're seeing, with the change of medication details and the conservatorship, a little bit of maybe what will be the defense's arguments.
Well, Griff, thank you for having me. With respect to the conservatorship, it's important for people to understand they don't just put people under conservatorship. These people are deemed unfit or incapacitated to a point that they can't care for themselves or their property. In his case, clearly this is because of his mental health condition. Now, his legal defense, if I'm seeing it correctly, I believe his best defense is probably some sort of classic insanity defense. Now, it's a two-pronged test. You have to be able to prove that you had a very serious mental health condition, which I think we can more than prove in Mr. Reiner's case. Documentary evidence dates back years. But the second prong of that test is that it made you unable to differentiate between the difference between right and wrong at the time the crime was committed. That's the question the jury is going to have to answer.
Well, and to that point, Ken, so if the insanity defense is showing that you could not, the individual, in this case, Nick Reiner, could not differentiate between right and wrong, there's also, in the wake of the murders, he checks into a hotel, he flees. These are conscious actions taken by someone that an argument could be made, did know what was happening, did know right, wrong, and felt some sort of sense of guilt and fled and had the whereabouts to get into a hotel to try and, I guess, hide?
Yeah, and that's the question the jury is going to have to answer. Are these the actions of someone that could not differentiate between right and wrong at that time? Do you check into a hotel at 4 a.m. and flee the scene of something like this if you can't appreciate that you might have done something wrong? I don't know. They're going to bring up his medication and how that was tweaked in the past month, and they're going to really try, I think the defense should probably try and really hammer in that he was not in control. This was more than just differentiating between right and wrong. It was like a chemical imbalance that required very strong medication.
Yeah, so Nick Reiner is now being represented by a public defender. His attorney, Alan Jackson, withdrew from representing him. But Jackson seemed to be making the point when he was walking away that he didn't think Reiner was guilty. Like, what do you make of the change in defense being represented now by a public defender and what Jackson had to say on his way out?
Well, I think, Mr. Jackson's being loyal to his client, which we should all respect when an attorney is loyal to their client. They should be. But I also think he left a few words out when he said his client was not guilty. Not guilty by reason of mental health condition.
Lastly, in the few seconds I've got left, where do you see this heading? What comes next?
I think he really has to mount some sort of sustained PR campaign to push his mental health condition and make it in the public's conscious. Because there's a lot of reports that, the salacious reports that he was subsidized by his parents to egregious amounts of money and his drug addiction. And, drug addiction is not a defense. The fact that you were on drugs at the time that you committed a crime is not a defense. That's what they call voluntary intoxication. But, I think he's going to really have to push the fact that he was not in control of himself.
We will be watching. Ken Belkin, thank you for being here and taking time.
Thanks for having me, Griff.
Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.